Good morning, New Beginnings Church. My name is Stephen Botts. I'm one of the pastors here. And if you are joining us for the first time, you're joining us in the midst of a 21-day prayer and fasting season. In fact, we're doing a 21-day study of the book of John as well. 21 chapters in John, 21-day fast. Today is day 6, which means we are in John 6. John 6 is an action-packed chapter. It starts with the main event of Jesus feeding 5,000, it just says men. We don't even know how many people there really were there. And he does it all miraculously from just a lunchbox of a young boy who provides 5 loaves and 2 fish. But Jesus doesn't only feed them, he stuffs them. Everyone ate and had their full. And not only were they full, they went and they picked up baskets full afterwards. Then after that, Jesus supernaturally walks on water. And I don't know about you, I can't walk on water. In fact, I can barely swim in water. Yet Jesus demonstrates his supernatural ability and his supernatural identity by walking on this water across the lake. And the third is Jesus is followed by those 5,000 people to the other side of the lake. And he has this discourse with them. And Jesus uses physical bread to teach a spiritual reality. And I want you to hear what he told them. He said, I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, yet they died. But here's the bread that comes down from heaven, which anyone may eat and not die. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. This bread is my flesh, which I will give you for the life for the world. So Jesus uses this bread to teach us a spiritual reality, which is this. Jesus is the only one that satisfies. So what does he satisfy? Well, he satisfies 3 things that I found in this text. And the first one is this. He satisfies the story. The Israelite story uses bread to celebrate almost every festival that they have. But if you're an Israelite and you heard Jesus say, I am the manna that came down from heaven, you would have been like, whoa, stop, what? Time out. Are you saying that when God redeemed Israel out of Egypt and he did it with his mighty hand and he led us through the desert with a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night, and when he led us through the wilderness and we came upon rocks and water came out of the rocks, and when that bread came down that we neither planted, we didn't sow, we just went out and we gathered, you're that bread? Well, this would have been incredibly offensive. In fact, it would have been hard to take. This bread was such a miracle. First, it was taken and it was put in the Ark of the Covenant. It was one of the 3 things that were for always to be remembered as the way that God provided. Second, this bread represented like God's provision. In fact, when you read the Exodus story, always you'll hear it over and over again. Remember, I gave you that bread. When Jesus is saying that I am this bread that fed them for 38 and a half years, what he's saying is, I am the thing that will sustain you. He's completing this Israelite story. He's not only doing that, he's showing them how Jesus satisfies sin requirements. When Jesus refers to himself as bread, one of the festivals they have is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Jews took bread very seriously, and there's this picture that they had of yeast and how it interacted with dough, that a little bit of yeast would expand throughout the whole dough, and that's how sin works. So we're going to bake bread without yeast. There's a meal where Jesus is sitting there. It's the Passover Seder, and he grabs the unleavened bread and he breaks it. He says, this is my body. Jesus is equating this bread with his body, this sinless thing with his body. There's other bread that represents sin. There's or even holiness. There's the bread of the presence. There are 12 loaves that are set on these golden dishes that sit on this golden table in the temple, and they were holy. This is consecrated bread. This is bread that is set apart for God, only God. It is to remain in the presence of God always. And this bread, it represents the communion and relationship that God has with the people of Israel. We can eat together at this table because this is holy. And yet Jesus is saying, I am the holy, sinless one. And the third thing that Jesus satisfies by saying that he's bread is he satisfies your soul. Listen to this. In John 6:35, earlier he says, "Very truly I tell you, you're looking for me not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and you had your fill. Do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you, for on him God the Father has placed his seal of approval." A few years ago, my wife and I, we went on an anniversary trip to Las Vegas, and we splurged. We went to all these expensive restaurants. We bought all the food that we wanted, and you will never believe the most peculiar thing happened. The next morning, I was hungry again. You would think the more money you spent on food, you would think the more food you ate, or the better quality food that you ate, you'd be full longer. But that's not true. And Jesus uses that human reality, that hunger for every day I need to be filled. Jesus is saying, I am the one who fills you. I sustain you. I satisfy your soul. All of your deepest longings and desires are found in me. When I was a kid, there's a song that we used to sing at church. It's an old hymn, and it goes like this. Give me Jesus in the morning when I rise. In the morning when I rise, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world, but give me Jesus. Church family, friends, Jesus is the only thing that satisfies. And I'm praying for you, and I'm praying for the rest of our church family, that as we're going through this 21 days of fasting, let's continue to pursue Jesus, the only thing that satisfies. Love you guys.